Good morning and welcome to Pimlico on Black Eyed Susan Day. Samantha Perry joined with Dan Illman. Dan, I don't like that we wait a year in between doing these morning shows together.
I know, it's way too long. We're
It
just
is.
going to have to do this way more often. But what a day to do it. Black Eyed Susan Friday is usually a sensational card, 14 races. This year's Black Eyed Susan, one of the more competitive fields I've seen in a long time, and thankfully, at least for now, the weather's holding out.
Yeah, it is a beautiful day. We were just speaking off the air how we are just so lucky today with no humidity, not a lot of wind, just perfect temperatures. We've got a fast track, good turf course here, 64 degrees. Dan, we can't really ask for a better day today.
Now, this is perfectly fine, and it's going to be interesting to see how this turf course plays
Yes.
because we have not been racing on turf at Pimlico since the meet started. It is officially listed as good. I'm curious to see if it's a little bit firmer than good.
Yeah, I am too. I'm excited to get out there, and feel free to join me out there.
All right.
If you'd like, we can come stomp around on it here. We won't give you any high heels, though, to press.
Please.
I
I have trouble enough walking in these.
Yeah. Well, trust me, me too, and I'm in sneakers right now. So it's a 14 race card, like Dan said. We've got just so much going on today, of course, just preluding into Preakness 149 tomorrow. But what a card we've got for you today, and kicking things off, the early pick 5, the late pick 5, 12% takeouts. These are incredible takeouts here.
It's one of the best bets in all of racing.
Yeah.
The 12% takeout on the pick 5s. Take advantage. And of course, there's carryover potential in the late pick 5. If it's not hit today, there will be a giant pool and a low takeout waiting for you tomorrow.
Yeah, and let's just say it's not easy today. None of the
no.
horizontals are easy today. But we'll go ahead and get started. Oh, and also here, this is huge, and this is something that they just debuted here, first racing, the $5 million Pick'em Challenge, Dan.
The Preakness Stakes, the California Chrome, the Pegasus World Cup. If a horse can sweep the Grand 3, wow, I'm talking about big money here.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling whoever runs in this race is going to be pointing for that California Chrome.
Yeah, and then hopefully on to the Pegasus, and maybe, Dan, you'll join us out there for Pegasus.
I'd love it. I'll take the invite right now.
We've got all stakes today, pick 5s going on today, and we'll remind you when that race starts a little bit later on the card. Maybe hear some of Dan and myself's thoughts about that. And then we also have an all dirt pick 5, just so much going on, Dan.
So much going on. I really like these wagers,
Yeah.
all dirt, all turf. If you specialize in one area of handicapping, you really get to sink your teeth into these races. And the most important thing, again, the 12% low takeout. You can't stress it enough. It is a great bet.
It is. There's nothing like it, and as a horse player, we love that. Now, 14 races on this Black Eyed Susan Day. We will stop boring you with pleasantries and get right into the card here. A mile and a 16th to kick things off on this fast main track here. We do have a couple of changes here. The 1A is out and the 8 Bandcamp is out, and Flavian Pratt will ride the number 5, Patient Capital. And Dan, for you, the number 3, Castle Island on top.
He's currently 3 to 5 on the morning line. That's a little bit light, but it's also very early. Trainer Kieran McGee has done very, very well claiming horses off of Brittany Russell. And while Castle Island did not win in his first start off the claim, he ran very well to exceed today's Beyer par. He was on a hard chase against the winner. They were pretty much ding-donging it for the last 5/16 or a mile or so, and Castle Island just came up a bit short at the mile and an eighth distance. I like him cutting back. I think he's the main speed.
So with the 4 in there, you obviously think that this was a strong race to key off of.
I think it was a pretty strong race. I like the way Collection Day won 2 starts back at this distance. Last time out, he was really taken in hand coming out of the gate. Seemed very uncomfortable racing towards the inside, drawing outside the speeds here. He might be able to get a nice clean trip, no dirt in his face.
Yeah, that's what you'd hope for. You see just the running styles were a bit different when both of those. The 2 Game Change, I kind of figured that this horse would take a little bit more money coming back, but maybe this is just the Florida in me. I like the fact that they're putting this horse back on the dirt. Honestly, I didn't really like this horse on the grass in Gulfstream.
I think you make an excellent point there. This horse, in my opinion, is the key to this race. Look who he was in against. The last time he ran on dirt, it was the Peter Pan, and he just happened to catch Arcangelo that day. Throw that race out, and then you go back a couple of races. I know it's early in 2023. He ran a fast race when graduating, and I guess this is the ultimate game change, first time gelding.
Yeah, it is, and I love that play for sure. Just gets their minds on things a little bit better. Race number 2, our first grass race of the Pimlico meet, 5 furlongs. I think that as a horse player, Dan, some of us, I know I'm a little hesitant. Just you want to watch a race like this, and with a 5 furlong race, it can be very tough. Now, the main track only, Great Heavens, is out of this spot, as well as Prado Road, and the 15 is out as well, and John Brasino will ride the number 1, and the 12 all the way on the outside for you, Fun Notion.
Not a great post position, but I really like the way Fun Notion left off his 2023 campaign. That was a good-looking win against state-sired Allowance Foe. Sort of tracked right off the rail in the 2-path, eased 3 wide, and just stormed on home to win. And again, exceeded the Beyer par for this level. It is a 190-day layoff, but Alexandra White finished off 2023 on a roll on turf. 4 for the last 11, of course 36%, a 342 ROI. I like this horse's tactical speed. I think Victor Carrasco is going to hustle him out of there and try to follow your top pick, the number 10, One Whirlwind Ride, who could be the main speed.
Yeah, what a classy horse here. Made $200,000 over that, and I feel like doing it the hard way as well. But, this is a horse, I think what I like about it is just more recency than the 12, and that helps as well. Really quickly on the turf, Dan, since you're just so familiar with it here, do you feel like whenever you come back off these long breaks and coming back to Pimlico that it plays a certain way?
I don't really think it plays a certain way. I think you always want to be forwardly placed on the turf. I think that's really the key. You cannot afford to have a stutter step because 5 furlongs, it is quick.
Yeah.
And you can't make up a lot of ground, especially in a big field like this where there's so much traffic. Then you got to get a trip as well as pace. So I think it really is key to be forwardly placed. Thankfully, our top 2 selections will be forwardly placed.
Yeah, you would hope so. And the 14, this is a huge price play here.
Yes.
What did you see first?
This
Melvin?
one will not be forwardly placed,
No.
Samantha. Benny Havens is coming off of a lengthy layoff, and maybe this horse is just prepping for something longer. He seems like a 2-turn type, but he is a first-time gelding, as you mentioned. This barn scored with a horse named Toast to Coast at 10-1 off of a 261-day layoff earlier this year. So they get horses ready off layoffs. This horse is going to be a huge price, and if there is a pace meltdown, expect him to kick late. Maybe sneak in your single race exotics at a number.
All right, I like it. Now, race number 3, it's a maiden $45,000 level, 6 furlongs on the fast main track here. It's a clean race of 10, and the 7 on top for you, Lucky Prince. This horse did run big last time.
I thought it was a really sneaky good effort. Didn't take a lot of money first time out, prompted the pacing between horses. Liked that he showed a little bit of early speed, and then they really quickened up that second quarter in 23.37 seconds. He sort of got outpaced into the pocket, but then once he got off the rail at the end, he was running on. I liked the gallop out, and I think with that experience under his girth, he's going to be a lot more mature and professional. I think he's going to show some good tactical speed here.
Yeah, and he did run against Car Ride, but I think you probably feel the same way I do, is Car Ride runs 2 winning races but can't win, and that's a horse I'm kind of willing to fade a bit more.
Especially if he's going to be a short price.
Right.
I will say that Car Ride ran just fine in that last race, especially considering he was 4 wide on the backstretch and into the turn, and he did get up for second behind the favorite, a Brittany Russell trained runner that was fairly impressive. Carlos Mancia does very well with these kind of horses. 5 for the last 14, that's a 363 ROI with third out maidens.
Wow, that's impressive. And you must have a tip on the 6, Rescue That Girl.
I really don't. Rescue That Girl, look at the purchase price, not very expensive.
No.
You don't really get bargains in this business. Turf distance pedigree, and Jose Corrales doesn't win very often first time out, but I have noticed that the Corrales first time starters recently have been outrunning their odds. They've hit the board at 6-1 and 15-1 this month with first time starters. So maybe again, this is the kind of horse we can sneak in underneath at big odds.
Yeah. Do you think that the betting public is going to go to Nielsen? Or do you think they'll stay away?
I think the betting public is going to go to Nielsen. I mean, this horse sold for a lot of money. He was in the Bob Baffert barn. He raced twice. He's never done this, sprinting on the dirt. 2 turns at Los Alamitos on turf. He's getting Lasix for the first time. He's getting class relief. He's getting Brittany Russell. It remains to be seen if he can run.
Yeah.
We're going to find out today, so you must make sure you get your price.
Yeah, I wouldn't take him at a short price at all. I feel like if Bob Baffert is putting him 6 on the grass, that's kind of like a last-ditch effort.
I like your top pick in here, though.
Yeah.
Cakes Arrow. Let's talk about him
Okay.
trying dirt for the first time.
I love that. I think that I'm not a huge fan of Arrogates in general, this offspring of Arrogate, but I'm not a huge fan of him on the grass, and this horse has only been on the grass. He's 4 years old. The whole time at Gulfstream, I just wanted to see this horse on the dirt, and of course our turf course can play a bit firmer, almost like a dirt-like, but you look at the race 2 starts back, Dan, he's got speed, and I think if he can get out there and Jorge Ruiz can put him in a good spot, he knows the horse, so.
And that was a quality race.
It
We're going to
was.
see pork rolls later on this week. That horse ran big that
Huge,
day, has done nothing wrong in 2 lifetime starts. Cake's Arrow, very interesting play, a little bit of dirt pedigree. Jorge Ruiz, one of the more underrated riders, I think, in the whole country.
Yeah, I agree completely. We got to know him a lot in South Florida this past winter, and I was very impressed with his rides. But he's not one that's going to rush a horse.
No.
So he fits certain horses, as do a lot of riders, I think. Now, race number 4, 5 furlongs on the grass course here. It is a field of 11, and the 5 for you, Dr. Oseron. You'll have to talk me into this horse, and I know you found a stat. Maybe you can do it.
Christophe Clement, he does very well with horses returning off layoffs between 6 months and a year. 7 for the last 20, 35% at $2.33 ROI. This horse ran okay before going on this long layoff, and that's always a worry, a long layoff. But his last start was the Roar Stakes at Gulfstream. I have him breaking 2-3 lengths slow in that race. Tough to make up ground in turf sprints again. He ended up finishing 3rd ahead of 2 next out winners on the synthetic. We've got the trainer stack, and he has shown that when he breaks, he has speed. Yeah,
that's going to be key for him, and sometimes off of a layoff, you don't know how quick they're going to be from the blocks, and that's a worry for me. But I agree to your point with the statistic. Christophe Clement is just very, very good at horses off of a layoff. The number 6, Talented Man, this one back on the grass was a runner.
I think that's the key. His last race on turf was over the summer, and he was involved in a hard speed duel. And look who he beat that day. Whitty, who might be one of the favorites in tomorrow's Jim McKay turf sprint. Mike Moore does very well on turf in Maryland. 4 for the last 16, 25%, $3.73 ROI. This guy's got speed as well. Maybe they get involved in a duel. Maybe Childers rates and finishes.
Well, what do you do? How do you, when you look back on that race on April 28th with Childers as well as, who else? Oh, Rock the Boat coming out of that race. How do you feel about that in hindsight?
I think both horses ran very well. Childers was sort of stuck between a rock and a hard place because That's Right, who's also in the Jim McKay, is blazing fast. And Childers, in only his second start of the year, was placed on a hard chase, but I love that he never quit. He kept battling all the way for second. I think Brittany Russell is racing this guy into his best form. And as for Rock the Boat, that just wasn't a very comfortable trip off of the long, long layoff. Robbie Bales is a very underrated trainer here, and I think with that last race under his girth, he could come with a stalk and pounce trip.
And he's undefeated at Pimlico.
That's a big plus.
Yeah, that's huge when you get something worked out like that. Race 5. 6 furlongs on the fast main track here. It's allowance optional claimers 3 years old and up. And, I was talking with Ron about this yesterday, Dan. You have to pay a note of these horses that are 3 years old facing older horses.
It's really kind of an interesting angle in a lot of these races where they're giving up experience, but also some of them have a ton of upside potential, maybe more so than their older contemporaries. So while a lot of the conventional handicapping wisdom is don't play the 3-year-olds against elders, they do have upside, and there are some conditions with beaten races where you can get 3-time horses, 3-year-olds that are 5-time winners eligible to face non-winners of 3 elders.
There's exceptions.
There are exceptions to every handicapping rule, as we know.
The 10 Golden Candy on top for you. Second off the claim now, and I think that this is a cozy spot.
I think it's a really cozy spot. Off the claim last time out, they tried a tough field. He kind of got bumped around at the start, even though he broke okay, tracked the pace inside, split horses in mid-stretch. He was running okay in the end. A little bit of class relief here. Don't mind this outside post position. And you gotta love warriors like this. 23 of 39 in the exacta. He seems to fire every time.
Yeah, you do like horses like that. And the number 5 here, this horse is a 3-year-old, first time gelding here. I think you can just ignore the slop effort, and that was a tough race.
It was such a tough race. Not only was it a sloppy track, there was a wicked pace on with speediness, the speed of the race, and Point Doom was pulling hard. And that was the problem with Point Doom in his 2 route races. He pulled extremely hard, and I think that sapped his energy. Personally, I think this is what he wants to do. Sprinting, and Kieran McGee, 6 for the last 15, 40%, 319 ROI, moving from route to sprint.
I think that if I don't see this horse on the lead, I think I'll be a little disappointed.
It'll be interesting to see if maybe the route race has dulled his sprint speed a little
Yeah.
bit, but he does have early lick. There are some other horses in here with speed, however. I think the number 9, Arden's Lucky to Be, is going to show a lot of gas.
Yeah, that horse has some very, very quick gate speed, and the number 3 does as well.
Take Charge 2 has done nothing wrong. If you want a sharp horse at a decent price, this horse has wired the field in his last 2 races. I will say this, he got an uncontested lead last time out and a breather. With Arden's Lucky to Be and Point Doom in here, I'm not sure that's going to be the case.
It doesn't look like it.
No Easy Days is interesting, though. Talk about a consistent horse.
That's what I like about this horse is he is just, you look at his last 5 races and they've been in the exacta. And, you know, what I like about him is I think probably I want to say his poorest effort was on the slop.
Yeah, I think his poor race was on the slop, and it really wasn't that bad at all.
No.
This is a versatile horse. He can lead, he can rate.
Yeah.
You've got to love horses with that tactical ability. I do want to mention really quickly the number 6, North Highland, because I thought this horse had a sneaky trip last time out.
Okay.
He broke slow, he was held up behind a very slow pace, and then he was blocked hopelessly in upper stretch. Once he got clear, he passed a few tired horses in the stretch and finished ahead of a runner that came back to buy her an 80 on a second level allowance on the turf. So maybe North Highland's a sleeper that can close into the number.
Yeah, the judge and jury ran huge in that
Certainly
next race
did.
that you were talking about. Yeah, I agree completely. It's a tricky race to end the early pick 5 for
It
sure.
is a tricky race, but I have to be honest with you, I kind of feel good with our top pick, Golden
I do
Candy.
too, yeah.
He's consistent. I like that he's outside, and he can work out any kind of trip.
Yep, I agree. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to get into the stakes action of this Black-Eyed Susan Day, so don't go away. Welcome back to Pimlico here as myself, Samantha Perry, and Dana Illman. We are digging into this Black-Eyed Susan card. We're happy to have you with us. 14 races we've got today, and Dan, we're just getting into the thick of it now.
We're just getting into the thick of it now, and what a competitive race 6 is. Mile and a 16th on the turf, maiden special weight, full field. It is so competitive. If you're playing a pick 4, this is the kickoff leg of a pick 4. Spread, please.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, let's talk about the 14 here. Mr. Flowers, tough post.
Tough post and tough ask. We haven't seen this guy in 356 days, but Horatio de Paz decided, you know something? I'm going to take this guy out of his debut for $75,000, even if I'm taking him off of Chad Brown. He feels he can improve him off of Chad.
Yeah.
I thought he ran okay in his debut. He kind of just pushed the pace, sort of snuck into the pocket and finished evenly. The one thing that bothered me is that when this original overnight came out, Jamie Rodriguez was listed on 3 horses, and he actually picked Union Bulldog, who wound up scratching in here. So we'll see if Mr. Flowers can do it. From the outside post, it's certainly not going to be easy, but he did earn a good figure as a 3-year-old.
A horse that I think is interesting in here, and I'm glad you have him, is the 12 Border War, because this horse is 5 years old, and there's a lot of 3-year-olds in this race specifically. He's actually besides Mr. Flowers, he's the only other older horse here. There's intent with these works.
I think there is.
Yeah.
And you know something? I'm not that worried about this lengthy layoff,
No.
because Joe Allen gives Jimmy Toner free rein to give these horses as much time as possible. And that combination scored with a horse named For the Flag at 7-1 in a maiden special weight off of a 463-day layoff last year. Border War did not have an easy trip last time out. He was wired in a slow-paced race that produced 2 next-out winners. He tried to get into it with a 4-wide bid on the turn, and it just didn't work out. The runner-up came back to win with a 79 buyer. I think he's going to be fit and ready to go here.
I think so too, and I love the gate work leading into this race. I feel like just with older horses, they need that to give them a little bit of extra fitness. Now, the number 10 here, Cinderblock, A second start for Graham Motion, and this Son of Blame did run very well on debut.
Certainly did. Finished behind the two favorites that day in a salty maiden special weight at Keeneland, and Graham just does better with second out starters.
Yep.
Past 5 years, 9% with debut runners, 18% second out. I got to look at this horse's last workout on video in company with a maiden named Round Tap, who has a 65 Beyer top on turf. Loved the way Cinderblock galloped out.
Yeah, that's so key, especially in a race like this. And I think I like this post. Of the younger horses in this race, I think he really does fare well here. Now, the 4 Mission North, the blinkers come off. And, Forrest Boyce, I always hear Dave Joseph, my boss, talking. He loves watching her on the grass.
Forrest Boyce, again, extremely underrated rider, knows how to save ground, knows how to save horse, and gets them to finish.
Yeah.
Mission North, on paper, looks like was coming off of a fairly lengthy layoff last time out. Actually, this horse ran, I believe, in a point-to-point race in one of the hunt meets as
wow.
prep race. It doesn't show
That's
up in the PPs. And last time out, going a mile on the turf, didn't break well, and got into a wrestling match with Forrest, just pulled and pulled and pulled. And all things considered, I thought he ran pretty well. I think the blinkers off is a key move. It's going to maybe get this horse to relax a little bit. This horse is sneaky at a price.
Yeah, I like the fact that they're taking the blinkers off. Sometimes I think they're an equipment to me that is overused sometimes.
Different strokes for different folks,
Yes.
or at least for different horses. Sometimes they key them up really, really good, and sometimes horses just dislike them immensely. And I just think Mission North is not a fan of them.
Yeah, we'll get maybe a more relaxed version of him today. Now, race number 7, it's a mile on the grass course here. It is a middle pick 5 that we have here. Now, the 2 Princess Indy is out. The 6 Paper Mansion is out. The 8 Hazardous Humor is out. The 10 Continental Congress is out, and what remains is still a massive field for this allowance optional claimers. These are for fillies and mares 3 and up, and the number 4 for you, Dan, Surya.
I'm a little disappointed that Paper Mansion scratched because that horse was going to be part of the pace. And if Surya needs one thing, she needs pace.
Yeah.
She doesn't have any early speed whatsoever. But I thought her last turf run way back last fall at Laurel was a really, really good effort. Just sort of weaved her way through traffic and was running on very well at the end for second behind Tequilera, who will be in one of our graded stakes races tomorrow. Brittany Russell, 4 for the last 12. I couldn't believe the statistic. $10.53 ROI. Wow. Dirt to turf off 4 to 6 month layoffs.
That's really impressive there.
Can't believe it.
Yeah, I'm shocked to hear that. Now, the number 12, the girl from Ireland, you found a replay of this horse, and we'll pull it up. This horse coming off of a lengthy layoff.
Yeah, the girl from Ireland, this horse has a really good stat for Graham Motion. Lasix on, layoffs of 6 months or more, 7 for the last 29, $3.16 ROI. Now, we haven't seen the girl from Ireland in a while. I don't worry about it because Motion's one of the greatest trainers in the world off of layoffs. But you look at the girl from Ireland's race in the All Brandy, up close to a very fast pace, impeded in the stretch, 2 starts back. I think a more representative effort. She's not going to be close to this fast pace. She'll sit and she'll get the jump on Surya.
Yeah, she will. And what is nice about her is she's pretty tactical, which I think really plays well for her. Now, the number 1 on the rail here, Naval Empire. This is one coming off a layoff, but you probably know more than I do. Mike Trombetta, he does very well with layoffs as well.
As you're saying, 6 for the last 21, 29%, $4.80 ROI, with horses off 6 to 12, 6 month plus layoffs, adding Lasix. I thought Naval Empire ran so well last time out in the Maryland Million Ladies, because look at those fractions on firm turf. 50 and 2, 114, and the winner, Precious Avery, just got loose that day.
Yeah.
Naval Empire really had no chance, and she tried hard for second. She might be able to work out a nice pocket trip behind the speeds.
Yeah, you can't catch a horse like going in those just very, very slow fractions. It doesn't work out like that. Now, the other Graham Motion trainee, I don't know, how much do you read into jockeys on certain horses? Now, there's 2 for Graham Motion, Flavian Prat and Jorge Ruiz, both strong riders for the Motion Barn.
Extremely strong riders, and it's so difficult to actually get into that intent. I'm going to let greater minds than mine figure out which jockey knows which horse, or if it's just simply Graham saying, Flavian, ride this one, and Jorge, ride this one.
Right.
But Sunbee certainly has credentials in her own right. Her last race on Synthetic, she faced a next out 81 Beyer winner, a Beyer runner-up in a $25,000 starter on the turf at Gulfstream. This is a filly that kind of needs a little bit of pace up.
Yep, she does. I've been a bit disappointed with her comeback as a 4-year-old so far, at least just from what I've seen at Gulfstream, because I think she's a lot more talented than she's shown,
I'm
Dan.
going to make the case that she's a little bit dirtied up, though, because 3 starts back, it was the Tropical Park Oaks, a very tough spot. And then maybe I think 7.5's a little sharp for her. And then last time out, again, the synthetic might not be her game.
Oh, yeah. And that just it goes to show that not every horse translates from the Tapeta surface to the turf and vice versa.
That's an excellent point.
Yep, it just always does not work like that. Now, race number 8, we get into the stakes action here at Pimlico. This is the Allaire DuPont Distaff. We've got a Rainbow 6-ticket Callie so nicely put together for us here. And just 2 deep in this race, and we'll get into it in just a second, Dan. Race number 9, she's spreading. That is a tough race, so I do agree with it there. Race 10, she's got 3 deep. We've got a replay of Launch to show. That's my top pick. Race number 11, the 7. Bazarati. She must know something about this horse here. Yeah, the need for speed with Bazarati. That's the single. Race 12, just 3 deep. Kings Barnes. I absolutely love Kings Barnes. I'm excited to talk about him with you, Dan, and we've got a replay as well. Huge off Keeneland. And then Black Eyed Susan. 3 deep for her. Call Another Play, Gun Song, and Recharge. $54. This is another wager that is a good one to play, especially if you've got a little bit of a budget, Dan.
$54, I think affordable enough. We'll see what we get. And I think if Callie's right, this is going to be a big ticket.
Oh, yeah, it will be. Now, the 6 Cats in the Timber is scratched out of here. And the 8 for you, Shotgun Hottie, had been running very well at Oaklawn.
She certainly has been, hasn't she, against such tough competition. I love the way she won the Molly Pitcher in 2023.
Yes.
She beat a very useful horse search results that day for Chad Brown. Beat her on the square, and Cherie DeVoe is just one of the really good trainers in the game right now, and she tested Shotgun Hottie in 3 tough spots at Oaklawn Park. I think tougher than the spots she's in here. We'll find out if 1 1/8 is truly her game, because I think that's the biggest question mark. But last time out, she was chasing outside. Adair Manor is one of the better fillies and mares in the country. She went on a hard chase after Adair Manor on the turn, and then she understandably tired. Flying Connection, the runner-up, came back to run 3rd in the Derby City Distaff, a grade 1 with a 98 buyer. Shotgun Hottie's going to be up close to the pace, if not outright on the lead. And we'll see if she can outrun Julia Shining, who we know loves the distance.
Yeah, we do. And the Shotgun Hottie, that Adair Manor for Bob Baffert that day just fell on the lead so naturally, and they tried to catch her, but she was just too good. It didn't work out, and I think Shotgun Hottie kind of played the price being a bit wide in doing so.
And I think that's been a problem in a lot of her races. She was wide at Oaklawn, but I think if she's going to show the form that she showed in 2023, it's going to be today. I really like your top pick in here, Queen of Missoula. I think she's just interesting at a price because we probably know what we're going to get from Shotgun Hottie and Julia Shining. I think Queen of Missoula is still all upside.
I think so too, and what I like about this filly is maybe on paper she's just, you look at her races and the best ones have been on the synthetic surface, but I like the fact that they're reaching out for Flavian Pratt here today. I think that that's a good sign here. The distance, we know this horse can go 1.25 miles, so 1.125 is sure in the wheelhouse. I'm just not sure how much class she's got, and that's the question.
Well, we're going to find out because that was a pretty salty field she was in against last time out. I think Raging Sea is poised to have a very good year for Chad Brown in this division, and the 3rd place finisher came back to win a 2nd level allowance at Churchill with a 93 buyer speed figure. Benny Colebrook, 4 for the last 17, 568 ROI. Horse is going 2nd off layoffs between 2 and 4 months.
You're going to have to talk me on to Julia Shining because I'm so done with her.
I can understand that completely. When she started her career, considering her pedigree, considering her connections, we expected so much. And then she won her first 2 starts. So we're thinking she's going to be a Kentucky Oaks filly, and it didn't work out. And if you watch her last race, it looked like she had it won. She made this wide bid, she makes the lead, and she couldn't seal the deal. The 2 things I do like about Julia Shining are this. 1, the distance. She'll run all day long. And 2, her best races seem to come 2nd off of a layoff.
That's true.
The Ashland, the Cumley, where she just missed by a nose, to the aforementioned Raging Sea. So maybe that last race under her belt helps.
I think it could. I worry about her progression from her 3 to 4-year-old year. So we'll find out today because she could just be lucky in those other ones because when you're stepping up, and as we saw last time, and also I felt like, I'm curious if you felt the same, that the Keeneland Spring Meet played very well to inside horses.
That is true, and maybe Julia Shining didn't care too much for that last time out simply because she made a 4-wide bid on the turn and might have been short off the layoff. So you might have just put a pretty good angle there onto Julia Shining. Again, she's likely going to be the 2nd choice in this race. Make sure you get your value because, as you said, she can be a bit untrustworthy.
Yeah, she she can indeed, and I think that this is a race that you've got the 7 in the mix, and I just want to hear your thoughts on the 7 because when I look at her, it would be silly not to include a horse like this on your ticket who's 6 for 7, but I feel like her best races are in the slop.
Her best races have come on a wet track, correct, but she's also won 5 in a row over a variety of different surfaces. Intrepid Dream is just such a fun mare. If you're out here at Pimlico or watching on the simulcast feed, get a look at her in the paddock. She weighs in at over about 1,350 pounds. She is just an Amazon. And her entire family's like that. Intrepid Daydream, who I believe you saw down at Gulfstream, is one of her siblings, so she's a giant mare as well. She's got tactical speed. This is the class test.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, I wonder how she'll fare out here because she's going to have to prove it today. But a horse that, you know, if you're playing something underneath her, you're keying a Superfecta or something, she's maybe one that, you know, she'll run well.
And Gary Capuano has been red hot in major stakes races in Maryland over the last 3 or 4 months.
Yes. Race 9 at the Hilltop Stakes. It kicks off the late pick 5 that, of course, ends with the Black-Eyed Susan. I put a ticket together. I love this sequence here today, Dan, and we'll take a quick look at it here. It's 1 mile on the grass to kick things off, and we will get to it in just a second. We'll go ahead and get into this race, and when it comes up, we'll talk about it. But the 6 for you, She Feels Pretty. There are 2 scratches. 3 scratches. Society Ball, the 7, the 9, and the 10 are out. She Feels Pretty.
Layoffs, they're so tough to deal with, especially with short price horses. But as we see, She Feels Pretty ran so well in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies Turf. You saw she takes a hard bump in upper stretch, and that's after racing 4 wide all the way around the track. And she's still digging and digging and digging, only to be beaten a half length. And of course, this race has produced a couple of next down winners. We saw Buku come back to win the Appalachian with an 86 Beyer speed figure off the layoff. Again, Cherie DeVoe's done a fantastic job with this horse. This horse was nothing but talent as a 2-year-old. She has the tactical speed to work out a good trip. Personally, I think she's the best horse. Will she be a bit of an underlay because of the layoff? We'll find out.
Yeah, she's one to me, and I don't want to take anything away from what you just said about her and how well she ran as her 2-year-old career. I saw some works on her from Keeneland, and she didn't grow up at all, which kind of worries me. And to me, I've never been a huge fan of her. She surprised me, and I wonder how well that Santa Anita number is going to hold up, because when people look at the sheets or the magazines, they're going to think, okay, she's a lock. But I just don't think it's as easy as that. Dan, we'll take a quick look at my late pick 5 ticket here so I can show you what I'm doing in this race, because I'm not using her. I tossed her.
I think that's the way to do it. If you don't like her, short price, beat her.
Yeah, exactly. There's no reason to leave her in there. Race 10 is tricky for me, but I do have the 4 on top. That is Launch, and we've got a replay of her. The very one that is race number 11, I do have the 8 on top. All That Magic, hoping for a pace meltdown in a speedy race. Race 12, Kings Barnes, we'll get to him. He's such a cool horse. Excited to watch him again back. And in the Black-Eyed Susan, what a tricky race. What a good betting race. I do have the 8 on top, Recharge, but that's a race. If you have a bigger budget, I kept this a little smaller, but if you had a bigger budget, I would almost throw an all ball at it.
But I love this ticket construction. I don't want to jinx you. Again, in a situation where you have a short price like She Feels Pretty, you have 2 options, single or toss. You're tossing, looking for the value. I personally think you have the right single with Kings Barnes.
Yep, I think so too, and I hope I get out of that race. Now, let's talk about the 2 Royal Winter, because I had a lot of money on this horse at Keeneland, as did my coworker Brian in Florida, and it was an interesting ride to me because he was glued to the rail the whole time, and then he went out. And I don't know if that cost the race, but it was a very slight margin of defeat.
It was certainly. It doesn't get any closer than that. And the filly that beat her, Style Points, was already multiple graded stakes placed coming in. Royal Winter just ran so well. I think maybe a little bit too conservatively handled that day, too confidently ridden. But she was really firing in the stretch. Motioned again, 6 for 21, 324 ROI, Lasix off, moving up into stakes races. Filly with upside, filly with tactical speed, and might be the right price because you got the Breeders' Cup 3rd place finisher here.
Well, and you say that she ran so hard down the stretch. You know, you don't usually see Grand Motion bring a horse back this quick. And I can't decide if that's a good thing or a bad thing here. I think it's a little too quick for a grass horse, but maybe that's just me.
I think at a price you can trust Graham.
Yeah, this is a very good point. Now, the 3 Expatriate, this horse, I came out of a pretty slow race. I'm not going to lie about this at Gulfstream, but I don't think that she was 100% cranked up. I didn't really feel like Chad Brown this winter at Gulfstream, although he doesn't usually start his A team. He doesn't have him completely cranked, and she won pretty nicely, and I think that she will come back to improve off that.
Very, very game in that performance. Now that's key because it's never easy to debut going 2 turns, and Expatriate has the pedigree, has the connections, has the upside, the tactical speed, and again, will be the right price.
Yeah. Race 10, first graded stakes race of the afternoon, and it does kick off the first leg of the all-day dirt 50-cent pick 5 as we see Callie's ticket here. No singles in it, and it is a very tough race. Now, Dan, we're going to get through the rest of today, but do you have any races tomorrow, a horse that you're going to key off of?
I've got a few horses that I want to key off of. I'm not sure, but I think Catching Freedom is a horse I'm really interested in.
Okay.
I don't want to disappoint everyone that's coming out here looking for a Mystic Dan party, but I'm the only Dan that deserves the accolades here at Pimlico, so I'm hoping that Catching Freedom can do it. But I think it'll be a slightly better price.
Yeah, it's a great wager, so make sure to get involved in that. It's the first leg here in race number 10, and Dan and I will try to help you out with it. It's 6 furlongs on the dirt track. The grade 3 Miss Preakness here. A great field, and the number 1 Mystic Lake for you. Saffie Joseph, such a familiar name in South Florida. Boy, has he just done such a great job the past couple of years.
Certainly has, and this filly really seems to run well on dirt, but I am worried. To me, this is a spread race
Yes.
because there is so much speed in here. Mystic Lake, under the gun from the inside, is going to have to prove that she can resist pace pressure and keep on going. Again, Saffie, 4 for the last 12, 453 ROI synthetic to dirt, but I am worried about the race flow. I think your top pick, the number 4, Launch, is very dangerous. We have a video replay of her last race. Usually handicappers don't like to really upgrade 3-horse fields. I thought she ran great because she was running down a 1-5 loose leader.
This race here was tough because Edgar Zayas was on R. Harper Rose, and I don't want to say he cost her the race, but I feel like sometimes as a rider there are decisions you have to make right away, and he didn't make the correct one that day. Now, I don't want to take anything away from Launch because that was her second win in a row, and she just ran incredible. We see Jorge Delgado on Preakness weekends bring horses here and run so well. Super Child's just one of them I can think of.
And he has done nothing wrong with Launch. 3 wins from 4 starts. The only loss coming on a sloppy track. I think Launch is a live contender because she is tactical.
Yeah, she really is. Now, the 10 horse on the outside here, Discreet Ops, perfect 2 for 2.
Perfect 2 for 2 and will be a price. Visually impressive in both starts. The debut win sure didn't look like a 20-1 shot. Last time out, she traveled sweetly going into the stretch, and then she had to work. To me, that's a perfect prep off a layoff. And again, this price is going to be right, and this race flow is to her advantage. She runs late at a price.
Yep, and I agree with Dan here because you see our picks, and Dan's got the 1 on top, but as he said, it is a spread race.
Using all 4.
Yep, I think that this is one of those races where you can do that, and you can maybe just flick a couple off, but the main body of this race, it's 1 because you talk about the pace scenario, it's going to be quick.
It's going to be blazing fast up front, and keep an eye on the closers.
Yes, exactly. Race 11, the very one. This is such a competitive race for fillies and mares 3 and up. It kicks off the first leg of the 2-day all stakes pick 5, so make sure to get involved in that. 12% takeout. Again, I can't preach on this enough how player friendly it is. Now, we've got a couple of scratches. The 3 Port Townsend is out. The 4 Coffee Maker is out. The main track only anonymously is out in this spot here. And Raul Mena will ride the number 9. What a competitive race. The 8 we both landed on. I want to hear your thoughts. I think we saw it the same way.
I think we saw it the same way. All that magic when she switched to the turf last year just became an absolutely new mare. She won 5 of her first 6 starts on turf. The only loss coming against the boys over a bottomless turf course in the Turf Monster. I talked to Kate DeMasi earlier this week, and she said maybe I ran her once too many times in that autumn days, that the trip back and forth from Keeneland might have worked against her. She was wired by a 50-1 shot that day, but she is really honest.
Yeah.
A couple of the speed scratched out in this race, but if she breaks, she can work out a trip.
I agree. We'll show the quick replay of Queen of the Mud here. She's coming off of a bit of a layoff as well last seen in October, and this was a huge effort.
Look at her. She still has a lot of work to do, but once she eases out into the clear, take a look at this stretch kick. She inhales the horse on the lead, who came right back to win her first level allowance at on the Tapeta at Gulfstream with an 88 Beyer speed figure. Queen of the Mud showed a lot of ability last year. I don't worry about motion off layoffs. He's excited about running her today.
I'm excited to see her, and there was a work on her from April 3rd at Palmettos, and she was about 80% fit, so I'm so happy to see that she was at that level at that time, because I think she should be perfectly cranked up for this spot. Now, race number 12, it's the Grade 3 Pimlico Special. I'm more excited for this race than I am for the Black Eyed Susan. I think it's a mile and 3/16 on the main track here. We scratched the number 6 time for trouble. We've got Kings Barnes. We've got the replay. Dan, how about a wow effort from this horse?
Just a nice performance. I mean, he was always cut out to be a good horse. You win the Louisiana Derby in your 3rd lifetime start. But Todd gave him plenty of time off the Pegasus. He's come back as a 4-year-old, more mature, bigger, stronger, nice tactical ability here. This is just a really good effort. And most importantly, he has the pace advantage over his main contender, the 5 Red Route 1. Unless Steve Asmussen sends Harlow Cap to go after Kings Barnes. The good news is Kings Barnes can sit.
Yeah, he can. And I worry if maybe that race is going to hurt him a little bit because he did run so hard. But you said 2 key words, Dan. He's bigger and he's stronger. This horse put on about 200 pounds from his 3-year-old to 4-year-old career. I mean, if you go back and watch a replay of him Louisiana Derby, then you watch that stretch run, his shoulders just grew. He looks incredible. I get goosebumps talking about him because I really do. I love this horse. I loved him last year as well. I think he's so cool, and I'm happy that they were able to take the time with him to get him developed now as a 4-year-old.
And it's possible we still have yet to see his best.
Right.
I think there's still an explosive effort coming. Maybe it will happen today. It's a good field, though.
It is. It's a very good field, and we'll talk about the 5 Red Route 1. I think that this horse, like you said, needs a pace meltdown, but Dan, I'll be honest, the race 2 back at Fairgrounds, that was such a massive inside track that day at Fairgrounds. I can't count that win as anything.
I think that's fair, although some folks are just going to look at the cold dope, as they say, and say he's the fastest horse in the race.
So true.
2 triple Beyer speed figures. What are we even handicapping? But I agree with you. Red Route 1 is the kind of horse that needs a little bit of pace and race luck. He's going to be charging at the end of this race. I don't think distance is an issue. The key is this. Will Harlow Cap from the inside go? Steve Asmussen told me he expects Paco Lopez to be on ascend. And Pyrenees, your second selection in this race, very tactical and much improved.
Yeah, much improved. I worry that maybe that she's a little bit better. He's a little bit better in the mud, but we'll see. And if you've got Paco Lopez on Harlow Cap, you're gonna go there.
I think you're showing some speed especially from the rail.
Yes. Race 13, it's the big one, the Black Eyed Susan, the Grade 2, a mile and an 8. These are 3-year-old fillies on the spotlight today. It's a clean race of 8. Oh, what a tricky race, Dan. I wanted to leave a little bit of time for us to get into this one. The 6 for you on top. Who could ask for Mo? I love that you've got this horse on top.
I could ask for Mo speed because that hasn't been there yet for this Shug McGahee trainee, but maybe the blinkers on will help infuse a little bit of speed. I thought her last race was okay. She kind of got bumped a little bit at the start. Didn't really finish with much excitement, but that was a good field. Where's My Ring shows talent. The runner-up comes back, runs 3rd in the Kentucky Oaks. It's such an evenly matched race, and it's a race that I think can actually set up for a closer. I think Who Can Ask for Mo can get a little closer to the pace, but won't be burning herself out early.
No, and I think when I went back and when you watch these replays of these fillies, this filly, I think, has the longest stride of everybody in this field. She just needs to know how to use it. She's not figured it out yet.
Yeah, she's still learning. A lot of Shug's horses, they get better with maturity and distance. And I'm hoping that she was maturing today. But if not, keep an eye on her down the road. She's going to be okay.
She will. I think so as well. I think she's still kind of growing into herself, too. And she's a strapping filly, so you got to take a look at her if you're out here. Now, Recharge for me. She tries hard. Now, I am spreading in this race, so I'm not going to live and die by her by any means. What I like about her is she was the only one to stick around in the fantasy.
I think that's a very good point because the fantasy we know is a strong race. Torpedo Anna wins, comes back, wins the Kentucky Oaks with a 96 Beyer. She's got speed. We're going to know this horse from the beginning. We'll see how far she wants to go, but the price will be right. The 7 Corposo, we have a video replay of her.
Let's show her.
Let's show her. And what I'm showing about her is this. She carried all the ground ground and only her third lifetime start. The winner's going to sneak up the inside. The runner-up is an odds-on favorite. Corposo, on the other hand, is just covering a lot of ground, and she's in it with a chance at the quarter pole, and maybe just the ground loss works against her. She gets tired late. Another filly with a lot of upside, but with a little bit of a sprint pedigree. I have to drain the clock, who's a graded stakes winner, so we'll see how far she wants to go.
Yeah, you think being a daughter of Vino Rosso, you can run all day. Now, this race, you can... Nothing like you ran huge, and I don't want to take away from the strength of that race. I've got to see more. I don't know. I would not take her at a short price.
I think that's fair. What about Gunsong, though? Because last time out in the Gulfstream Arcos, we know that pace got hot early. Ways and means pulled, and Gunsong unfortunately got embroiled in an internal battle.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because from the beginning of going into the Gulfstream Park Oaks, I was totally against her. I didn't think she wanted any part of going long. And you look at her pedigree, and she should be able to handle it. But I stuck to my guns with her. At the top of the stretch, she started striding out about 2 inches. I wasn't a fan of how she finished that race at all. I don't think this is her distance. I understand that the connections have to run her here, because it's not like she ran poor. I mean, she ran okay, but visually, it's not what I want to see going into a race like this. To me, her best shot is Johnny V. Descender.
Yeah, and the problem is there are other speeds in here, the likes of Recharge, the likes of even Corposo is going to be close to the pace, so it might be a big ask.
What do you do with Lemon Muffin? Because I feel like a lot of people are going to be drawn to this filly here. I don't see it, and you don't either. What are your thoughts?
I don't know how good she is. Yeah. Was the Honeybee a fluke? It came out of nowhere. She was a maiden. She wins that race at a big price. And then you look at her subsequent races, and you could say, well, I guess it was, but look who she's in against. Yeah. Torpedo Anna, just FYI, top fillies. This is a class drop for Lemon Muffin, so if she runs back to her Honeybee, she's a major player. I just am not sold just yet.
Yeah, I'm not either. I'll have to see it today. I like the fact that Flavian Pratt is aboard, and I think he'll get a really good run out of her. But you know one thing, that these fillies that come from the Dwayne Lucas barn, they're tough cookies.
They're always tough cookies.
Tough muffins.
They're tough muffins. This one's a tough muffin, let me tell you. Yeah. And you're always rooting for Mr. Lucas. Yes. What a joy he was at the Alibi breakfast.
Yeah, he really was. It was very entertaining, for sure. What a good race here in the Black Eyed Susan. Is there any horse that we didn't talk about, Dan, before we move on to the finale that you want to hit on?
I want to hit on Ringy Dingy because it's just such an interesting placement. Danny Gargan's going to run this horse off of a lengthy layoff, going 1 1/8. The last race I thought was an utter throw because of a wet track. This filly had some buzz last year as a 2-year-old filly. I won't be surprised if Katie Davis works out a nice inside-out closing trip.
She is so patient sitting on a horse. She puts him in the right spot. If she doesn't have enough gas, that's fine, but she will get her in the right spot.
She will get her in the right spot, and we'll see if she's ready, Ringy Dingy that is, to go 1 1/8 off such a long layoff.
Now the finale here to end this Black Eyed Susan day, a few scratches of the 1, the 2, the 5. It is on the grass course here. The number 4 for both of us, Dan, and we'll send them on their way. Wonderful Justice will be a short price, but man, what a race she's coming out of at Keeneland.
Well, better a short price than a long face to leave the day, as they say. And Wonderful Justice, again, I'm not going to get too cute. Nice race last time out of Keeneland against good horses, competitive buyer speed figures, top connections, tactical speed.
Yep, Northern Vader for Sri DeVoe is an absolute killer. So the fact that he can hang with this horse, that's saying something. That's 14 of them on Black Eyed Susan Day. Dan, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you. You're great. I appreciate it.
Well, we hope to see everybody out here to enjoy this day. And Dan, before you leave us, your best bet and your value plays of the day.
Lucky Prince, race number 3, a little maiden, second time out. We're going to see if this horse can improve off of the debut. I think he's fair price at 8-1. We'll get a little bit shorter than that. I'll take 5.
All right. I love it. And
value play, Surya needs a little bit of pace at 6-1 on the morning line. I trust Brittany off the bench.
There you go. You've heard it here first. Old Hilltop Award winner here, Dan Illman. Thank you so much for joining us. Enjoy Black Eyed Susan Day. We'll send it upstairs. They'll take you through the scratches and the changes. Enjoy the day and enjoy Preakness Weekend.